Billboard Battalion coming to you from Coyuga in north central Victoria, Australia. And today's the 14th of March, Thursday the 14th of March 2024. The topic we wanted to talk about today was, as we're seeing these power lines and renewable energy, all the solar panels start to kick into gear, all these wind turbines, we want to talk about a bit more solidly, and this issue is going to come up a lot in the very near future, is about how the companies that are pushing all these so-called renewable energy projects are starting to become very forceful and very dirty in the tactics that they use to try and convince people to allow them to come onto their properties and to put up this infrastructure. And so this push for these shocking renewable energy projects are really taking shape, and they're going for it. And as we're seeing that unfold, we're seeing a lot of people now who are really becoming seriously impacted by not only the infrastructure itself, but primarily from the tactics and the forceful things that the companies are doing to try and get these things over the line, trying to get access to land, trying to intimidate and force people to sign up to these contracts. And from our feedback, and there's a lot of meetings now happening all over Australia, this renewable energy push is happening in earnest, absolute earnest. And we're starting to see all over Australia people are saying, you know, we do not want this stuff. We do not want all the infrastructure. We don't want the whole deal, because everybody who in Victoria, let's just say, this is happening all over Australia, but everybody in Victoria needs to be aware that if the infrastructure that they want to build comes to fruition in full. G'day to everybody there. Got West Wimmera. How you going there? Go Jackie. Rex. How you going, mate? Great to see people on. Fiona, how are you? How you going? John. So what we're seeing is, if this thing comes to fruition, they are saying, this is the government is saying, that this so-called renewable energy infrastructure footprint will take up 70% of Victoria's farmland. Now that is a massive, that's huge. And I just wonder if every person who goes for this, g'day Brian mate, how are you? Everyone who goes for this realises this and sort of starts to think this is going to be a major impact on our food production. Not only on our food production, on the farmers and the landholders and their businesses and the money that they have, the values of their properties. A lot of people are talking about, you know, oh, the farmers are going to make a fortune out of all this stuff. No, pretty sure they're not. And I think it'd be very interesting actually to see some of the contracts that the people might sign up to and their liabilities, because this seems to be becoming a theme from, hey Doris from Penrith in Sydney. G'day mate, how are you? This seems to be a pretty big concern, that a lot of the people, if something goes wrong with this stuff, or when it starts to break down or needs to be decommissioned or fixed or whatever, or causes fires or problems to everybody else, then who's going to be liable for this stuff? And these are some of the things that are coming up at meetings all over Australia right now. We're starting to see a pushback against this in community meetings. So, you know, the thing we wanted to talk about was the tactics that they use to push people, and we're starting to see some very concerning reports of people who are attending these meetings and saying, you know, what's happening and how they're being lied to, how landholders and farmers are being pressured, intimidated, to the degree that we're even seeing reports now of many of these companies. Their people are turning up at you know, old ladies, old widows' houses, and trying to pressure them and intimidate them into signing up to let anything, let all this stuff happen. So these are shocking, terrible, terrible things. And, there's meetings going on now all the time. And Nick from Billboard Battalion attended another one last night over at Donald in Victoria. And these stories are getting more and more prevalent of the tactics that they are using. And in many cases, they're turning up at meetings or people's places or whatever with maps and information that is so vague that it's shocking, pathetic by anybody's standard. So we need to understand that these tactics. Hey, Michelle from Marupna, how you going? These tactics are horrendous. They are shocking. They are not open and transparent. When they said, they'll have a lot of public consultation, people will be informed. No, they're not being informed, and they're not doing public consultation. They're not doing the right thing. And so, Brian, how you going, mate? And so this is some of the stuff that we really need to be highlighting, because as I've spoken about before, we had all this sort of stuff go on with all the water wars when they brought in the Murray-Darling Basin Plan and the North-South Pipeline and so on. This is their standard thing. So, we really need to get people aware that these are the tactics and start to push back. And if they have to do that, if they have to lie to people, if they have to try and intimidate people and pressure them, then that tells you right from the very start that this thing is dangerous, it's not good, it's not honourable. And we're starting to see them turn up and as I said earlier on in other videos, they're pitting neighbour against neighbour, friend and family members against friends and family members, communities against communities. So, this is some of the shocking things that are starting to come to fruition. And, we're starting to see landholders now who are having information from their banks who are saying, well, your property value is going to drop enormously. And so therefore that puts into question whether or not banks might say, well, we want to call our money in. If the property value has fallen, then your asset security has fallen. Where these things are, people can't do productive agriculture. They can't grow their crops. They can't have livestock. They can't operate machinery, sprayers, headers, drones, if they use that for their farming practices, a whole lot. So these issues are really, really coming to the fore. So I just wanted to touch base on that today and highlight that these things are going on with their push to these so-called renewable energy things that they will fail. They cannot do what they are claiming they're going to do. And that's another thing where our government is lying to us. So we are going to try and get in contact with some of these people who have been affected and have had these pressure tactics and are feeling the pressures on themselves, both mentally, emotionally and financially. And start putting together some interviews and to bring these things to the fore, because we need to understand this is their tactics and it is wrong, it is intimidating, and many of the farmers who are doing certain things to try and protect themselves against this invasion of this garbage. I think that there needs to be an understanding of what you're dealing with. And once again, if you don't understand what you're dealing with, you can't fight it. So therefore, this is part of what we're doing with this. And Sandra said, okay, offshore. So I'm not too sure that this offshore stuff is going to go all that well. I think they're going to probably try and knock some of that on the head and bring more of it on land, which is going to wreck us, which is going to wreck the farming and agricultural community and our communities. So it would be, I think that's what's going to happen, because as we know, their objective is to take up as much agricultural farmland and put that out of production as possible, and also to create a create an energy source that is going to fall over. It can't work. It can't deliver it. And, talking to people just recently, people who are in transport and so on, they travel all over the country. They're reporting that these wind turbines, these whatever, and the solar factories, let's just call them that, they're starting to pop up everywhere. So where people might think, it couldn't occupy 70% of Victoria's farmland, I think it definitely has the capacity, because that's their plan. And we're seeing these things all over Australia now, right through from here, South Australia, Queensland, New South Wales. The whole thing's going nuts, and this is very, very bad. So I just say again to a lot of the farmers who, they think they're just going to shut the gates or something to prevent people from coming there, putting on court cases and so on. Costs a lot of money to do that. I put it to you that no matter what you reckon at the minute, the fact is that the government, the World Economic Forum, they have plans to go ahead with this. And if you go down the traditional path of trying to stop something, whether you've got protests, court cases, talking to your politicians, trying to get your politicians on side, then you're wasting your time. The most important thing that all our farmers and landholders who are affected need to do, number one, is to accept that this is a part of a global plan, and they need to come on board with what we're talking about here and get behind Billboard Battalion, because our tactics and strategies are the only ones going to work. Very sadly, I've said it to many of our farmers, and they're still very, very sadly just joined at the hip to many of the politicians. And the politicians lie to you. They tell you they're going to fight for you, and they don't, because they've already signed up. The politicians already signed up the stuff that's going to happen 10 years ago. And by them telling you that they're going to fight for you and we're the coalition and they're the Labor Party or vice versa, they're just playing politics with you and your life and your money, your properties, your families, your security, your communities, everything. They're just playing games with you. So what we need to see is the acceptance that it is what it is, the Great Reset, the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, the 2030 Agenda, the 21 Agenda, all that stuff. We have to all accept that's the thing, and then publicly put a campaign together around that. And we need to be waking everybody up, because once again, I'm going to tell you point blank, if you continue to believe your politicians are going to help you or even give a crap about you, they don't, because they've already sold you out. If you believe talking to your politicians is a good idea, well, it's not. It's not going to work. I'm going to tell you that right now. Complete waste of loyalty and energy, total waste of everything. If we think we're going to just, if they think we're going to go to court, well, I'm here to tell you, my opinion, this is my opinion. You're dealing with a hostile court system that already is committed to doing whatever the government wants, the WEF. That's my understanding, that's my belief, that's what I think we've seen in the past. We've seen, this sort of thing happen lots. So I think you should understand, all our farmers and landholders, you need to have a completely different strategy, because they intend to do what they intend to do no matter what you think. And if you play the game by their rules, they set the rules up for them to win and you to lose. It's that simple. We've seen it happen time and time and time again. Even right now, with the extra 450 gigs of water they want to take for the Murray-Darling Basin plan, we've got farmers and irrigators in the southern Riverina and northern Victoria who are going crook about the way they're going about that, the government's going about that. Well, that was always going to happen, because that is what they do. And this is what we need our farmers, whether it's irrigation farmers, whether it's croppers, whether it's livestock, it doesn't matter. They have plans to do things to knock out your farming, And you must start to understand this. Otherwise, you're done. If you don't take this on board, you don't get behind what Billboard Battalion's doing, then your goose is cooked. They will do what they want to do. They have all the nasty tactics. They've got the power of government behind them. They've got the power of the judiciary. And they've got the power of the big corporates. Massive amounts of money and big corporates. So we can take that on, but that's where we need, we the people, to come together and have the correct strategy. And what happens is people go down the line, they do all these things, they try their best, and they get wiped out slowly, and they run out of energy, they run out of money, they run out of everything. So, this is where we're at. Take on a new strategy. Take on a different strategy. Take on one they're not ready for. Take on one where we, for once, just for once, the farmers and the entire community, not only farmers, just for once, the farmers and our communities come together and start to push back on the politicians. We start to actually take them on, because the politicians and the bureaucrats are expert at going out and seducing some of the ringleaders. That's their specialty. They're trained in that. That's what they do. They go out and they buddy up to some of the people who they want to sort of present as the leaders in the community, and then they create another side, as so as you end up with two sides who are fighting each other. And you always end up with some group who is the pets of the politicians. They pat them on the head, they tell them how great a job they're doing, they kiss their backside, they tell them how, yes, we politicians will fight for you farmers, but they don't. They're lying to you. They are sucking you in, setting you up to crash and burn. That is what they're trained to do. That is their specialty. That's their modus operandi. That's how they do it. And then they bring in the heavy hitters, the people who work for these companies. They go and work out ways to push and shove, to pressure, to intimidate. And then they come along with the old line, oh, well, look, your neighbours have all signed up to this, This one signed up and that one signed up. They'll try and target people who they know don't have a lot of money, and they'll go and present them with some dough. And, in some cases, people are very, very desperate for money, so they'll put up these things, they'll take some money, or they might be pressured by their banks to take some of these deals. But these are all their pressure tactics. They are not honest, they're not clean, and we need to fight back against this stuff. So this is a big part of why we're doing what we're doing. The renewable energy thing is going off its nut across Australia, and we're seeing landholders and communities all over the country starting to realise how serious this is and what it's going to do to their land values, their businesses, and how it's not going to work. So when we look at other alternatives, we're hearing a lot of people now reporting, the coalition is saying, well, look, the answer to this is not all this stuff. The answer is nuclear. We need to build nuclear where the old power stations were so we can use, these existing infrastructure. So I want you to understand once again, that is simply a tactic. That is all that is. They have no intentions of bringing nuclear in. And they tell you, oh, look, if we get into power next time, when we win the federal election, we become the government, we're going to look at nuclear. So what they're actually doing is they are just stalling for time. They're making people believe they have an alternative. This is their scams. This is their tactics. This is what they do. So, and every time they come up with some new idea or what they're going to do, it's another year away, another 2 years away, another 3, 4 or 5 years away. And that just exhausts people. And they know that that's exhausts people, because that is another one of their tactics. They try and tell you, us in the coalition, it's all the Labor Party's fault. And then the Labor Party go, well, the coalition are talking about nuclear, we don't want that, it's so dangerous, and all the rest of it, all the pollution, blah, blah, blah. All they do is work out ways to fight amongst themselves and to waste your time and to wear you down. That is their tactics and strategies. So I'm saying to you now, come on board with what Billboard Battalion is doing. Let's get this fight up and pumping, and let's do something once, just once, where we can get most of our people together on the same page, where we actually have a shot and we actually have a plan. Because people going to rallies and protests and just saying they're going to lock the gate, they're going to keep them out, all that other sort of thing. Well, that's a complete waste of time, because they have many other ways of getting you off your land. So I talk about the cultural heritage stuff that's going on. It's not going to be too long, and this also is a part of the big picture that we need to fight. It's not going to be too long before you don't even have access to your own land. With all the overlays, all the things, the new rules and regulations about what you can do, environmental, social, government, all that stuff, they will strangle you. You won't be on the land. They will shut you down, and this is all a part of it. So the people need to understand that, if they don't get on board with this, they're just not going to be there. You won't have livestock. You won't have crops. You won't have access to your farm. You won't be able to plough, till, run sheep, cattle on them. And these are all the ways they're going to get rid of you. So our farmers need to become educated very fast, and they need to do things the right way. And the most important part of that is what I do at Billboard Battalion, is to make sure people understand what they're fighting against in the first place. And that is simply the most important thing that we can say. So don't believe your politicians. The four major parties, they all lie to you. And for the people who the politicians make feel a bit special, the politicians make you feel as if they're listening to you and they're going to do something for you. Don't get sucked in. We've seen it all before. That is their field of expertise. So the most important thing is to get involved with somebody who does have a plan. Might be somebody who thinks outside the box. Might be somebody who brings stuff in that you don't know about. Might be somebody who says, this is a global plan and you are a part of it. And what's happening with the energy sector is just a small part of it. And you are earmarked to not be there for much longer. And when we get to that point, we can get everybody together and we can fight hard. And that's how we will win. That is the plan. Don't do the standard things they're telling you to do, because you will lose. It is that simple. All right, people, so I might just wrap it up at that. Thanks very much to all the people who have given us so much great support. Share this everywhere. We've got a number of people who have offered us help in different ways and support, and also donations. That's been, we need to keep the money coming, and can't say that enough. So thanks to everybody. We're collecting up names and that from people who can help, and we will put that together very soon and get back to people and say, right, this is what we need, this is what you can do. And so much appreciated for the people wherever we're listening from, wherever you're listening from, for coming on board and giving us a hand. We'll be back tomorrow at 12:30 with another live on the issues that matter to you, the issues that matter to our country, the issues that matter to our kids, our futures. As I say, we will not go weak at the knees. We will not fall down. We will keep going. We will soldier on no matter what. So to everybody, thanks very much today for watching. Spread this far and wide, and we'll catch up with you later. All right, thanks very much. Wade Northausen for Billboard Battalion. Signing off for today, Thursday, the 14th of March, 2024.